It's fair to say that the presidential race, at least in the sense of the primary, is a three-person race. Sanders, Warren, Biden. And those three people, despite Bloomberg and Patrick getting into the race, for the most part, it's those three. Especially when you're talking about national polling. Now, there's some polling out recently showing Warren taking the top spot nationally, but those polls tend to fluctuate. And if we're being honest, national polls are not what elect people within the context of the primary. As you're going from state to state, depending on whether and how you win those states, you can get momentum going into the next few states, meaning the national polls may give you a perspective of the nation, but for the most part, that is not what chooses who wins. Elizabeth Warren, however, was doing well. And she continues to do well in these states. Like I said, even in these states, it tends to be a three-person race, with one exception, Pete Buttigieg. Be it in New Hampshire and Iowa, two of the whitest states, but those are his main constituencies, he does well. Whether he wins or not is secondary, but he's doing well. And he is edging his way up into double digits in some of these states. I want to go to California, because California is going to be one of the early states now. It is a massive state, and whoever wins California, let's just call it a feather in their pocket. Warren plummets, and I use the term plummets accurately. Sanders continues his surge. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is Soapbox After Dark. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support it. PayPal, Patreon. Even $1 helps, since it is brought to you by you. Polling. I'm fascinated by polling trends. Honestly, I've started getting more into reading what people are saying when they're being asked various questions and seeing how that goes from state to state to state to state. And the trend lines tend to be very similar. And when those trends change, that's when you see various gradations in various states for particular candidates. California, for example. This is the Capital Weekly November tracking poll. Elizabeth Warren, 27%. Sanders, 21%. Biden, 18%. Buttigieg, 8%. I'm sorry, 14%. Nobody else is close. Biden, 18%, Buttigieg, 14%. Now, Warren loses 9 points in this. Sanders gains 5. Warren is within striking distance from Sanders. I'm sorry, Sanders is in striking distance of Warren. Biden in striking distance of Sanders. And Buttigieg in striking distance of Biden. What I want you to notice here, though, is the typical trend went with, and before you even get to that, electability and the constituencies that the candidates have been using in order to maintain their edge and maintain their disposition in the race. That's what I want to talk about. First, it seems like, or you would think, just looking on the face of it, that Warren supporters and Sanders supporters would be the same. That there may be slight differences, but that's not necessarily true. These constituencies are different. Even though one constituency may support the other given a particular situation that takes place. What I mean by this is Sanders supporters tend to be poorer people of color. Warren supporters tend to be whiter, more limousine liberal elitist types. You can see it in the polling when you're looking at it. Which means that the gain that Sanders gets here may be part of Warren constituency or may not be. Now, when you look at Biden dropping 3, what I want you to notice is Buttigieg. Buttigieg goes up 8. Warren goes down 9. Now, why am I showing that? So, look for right here. Who are you most interested in learning about? Buttigieg. I told you before in the other polling, when people were looking at Warren and they were evaluating her, the number of people who were willing to leave or were willing to look at other candidates was high. She, from the standpoint of their eyes, is new. They're looking at her as somewhat of a new choice. She has aped Sanders in many of these respects. They've gotten a good look at her. And it's not that they dislike her. And yes, they would all things being equal vote for her, but they're not sold. They just kind of agree. It's a difference. When you ask Sanders supporters, 57% say, we're not going anywhere. This is our guy. And Biden has like 40%. This is our guy. We're not going anywhere. I'm just making the point that Warren supporters are less committed. Buttigieg is getting a look. He's getting a look. But if you look, the next person is Warren. These are the two new people in the race. And the public has given them a once over. Here's another thing that I want you to watch. Look at this. Look at the vote total for Buttigieg. 15% white. 15% Hispanic. That's shocking. That's high. African Americans, 4. Asian, 6. But look at Warren. Warren's white is 32%. His constituency is not all that entirely different, especially when you're looking at percentage-wise, meaning Warren gets 18% Hispanic, 24% Asian, 24% Black, 32% white. Her main constituency is white. We look at Biden, Biden gets 18%, 22%, 29%, 16%. And we look at Sanders, 38% Hispanic, 19% Asian, 20% African American, 14% white. I guess what I'm saying is Warren's numbers potentially are being eaten in by Buttigieg. I could be wrong. And like I said, it's possible that some of these people were Sanders supporters that just kind of came home. But Buttigieg's main constituency, at the very least in New Hampshire and Iowa, were white. Warren's main constituency is white. It's possible that Buttigieg and Warren are drawing on the same group. It's like feeding on the same life force, in which case it eats a little bit into her numbers. Not to mention, he goes up 8 in this poll. She goes down 9. Not necessarily all of that is coming from him. Like I said, some of that could be coming from Sanders. By the same token, Joe Biden also goes down 3, which may be adding to Buttigieg's numbers. It's hard to entirely know across the board. Something else I want to point out. Electability. Now, I've made the argument that electability is Joe Biden's lifeline. That many of the people, especially in the Democratic Party, seem to be, especially in the other states, what do I want? Versus, oh my God, what makes me safe at night? And the guy who keeps the monsters at bay for many of the Democrats, especially in many of the other states, was Joe Biden. Joe Biden keeps the monsters at bay. He's the safe bet. I don't think Joe Biden's the safe bet at all. I'm just saying from their perspective. They know him. They see him. He's been around forever. He was with Obama. Close enough. Let's go with him. Yeah, we don't need vision. By the same token, there are many of the people in the party that if just asked, what do you want? You would get something that is decidedly to the left. And I would argue that seeing that Sanders and Warren are in a predominant disposition, if you just kind of add those two together, shows what the party wants. By the same token, what keeps the monsters at bay? Now, that was true in other states. And as long as it was true in other states, Joe Biden had a stick-to-itiveness that is utterly shocking considering his debate performances and some of the stuff that he's been saying on the campaign trail. By the same token, look at this. If electability wasn't a concern, who would you choose? Warren, Sanders. The distribution is nearly the same. The distribution is nearly the same. Also, this last point. Joe Biden, from the standpoint of African Americans, gets 22%. But that's not that far from Sanders with 20% or Warren with 24%. Meaning, two areas where Joe Biden had depended on, at least from the standpoint of trends, electability. I'm the guy that's more electable. I'm the guy that's going to keep the monsters at bay. You may not like me. You may not love me. You may think other candidates are better. But I keep the monsters at bay. And African Americans, you lose both. And in losing both, he drops the third in the polls. Like a distant third. Isn't this fascinating? At least I think this is utterly fascinating. Meaning the trend broke, at least from the standpoint of California. California may be working on a different premise. But his tally of African Americans is not like in the other states where he's getting these massive numbers, especially in places like South Carolina. Nor is the electability argument holding fast. Because those people in California see Warren and Sanders as just as electable. Warren drops 9 in California. Buttigieg is up 8. I think those things are related, but I can't be certain. We'll see as more information comes out. Sanders, up 5 in California. I would say this, though. Warren's plummet seems to coincide with Buttigieg's comeuppance. And that's not just in California. If you look at New Hampshire and you look at Iowa, it's something similar. Sanders tops one of the polls that are in Iowa. He either topped it or came in second place. But Buttigieg was still up there in like 3rd or 4th. Warren seems to have declined as he seems to have gone up. And even when you look at people and they say who's the most interested, Buttigieg, followed by Warren. Sanders, they already know. Biden, they already know. So it's not like, we're interested in finding out about them. But it does seem the people being interested in Buttigieg coincides with an 8-point jump, which coincides with the 9-point drop. California is going to be utterly fascinating. And the question becomes, is Warren's constituency floating to Buttigieg or interested and also curious about Buttigieg? Fascinating. That's it. Sanders' surge continues. Warren plummets in California, and Buttigieg jumps in Cali. Like, share, subscribe. Down goes Warren. You know what's up? Somebody said that 1/3 of Sanders supporters wouldn't vote for Warren. Isn't that fascinating? Like, when you're looking at crowds, you're looking at even her aping him, and aping him poorly in some respects. I mean, for people who don't entirely pay attention to politics and don't follow this stuff closely, it may be close enough of them. Like, close enough. I mean, she has a vagina. She says similar things. I can't really see a huge difference between the two. So, yeah, let's go with it. But there are massive differences between them. The stuff that Warren has been saying about billionaires, or the stuff she's been saying even about when they ask her about Palestine and she can't give a straight answer. She can't say anything about foreign policy. It's just weird. Her saying that the public school system is not socialism, which is bizarre. The military, the fire department, the police department, and yes, the public school system are all aspects of socialism, just like Social Security. I don't understand why she's so terrified of the word, and I suspect that she's so terrified of the word because she's thinking in the general the public's going to hit her with it. If you run, they're going to chase you your whole life. And I have to be honest, that video where she can't say that is, I have to be honest, a reason why you shouldn't vote for her. If you run, they will chase you your whole life. Think of her instincts. Think of the two big things. Is she a Native American? The answer came back no. And then, will you have a middle-class tax cut or a tax increase for Medicare? She says no and comes up with a plan that is going to be vilified and attacked relentlessly. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.